Right now on the National Weather Desk, storm threat, where tornadoes, strong winds, and hail could strike today. Hailstorms, an unusual outbreak of hail falls just outside of Washington, D.C.
This could potentially be the biggest hail event since June 2nd, 2019.
Tornado touchdown, or just straight-line winds, how the National Weather Service surveys storm damage.
You will see damage generally converge to a central point.
Why spring plantings in one state is getting earlier and earlier every year.
What farmers are doing is harvesting sunshine.
Boaters beware. Would you know what to do if you unexpectedly found yourself in very cold water?
Falling into that cold water often leads to drowning.
And we'll look at the past, present, and future of digital weather.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Steve Rudin from WJLA in Washington, D.C. A severe storm threat is once again posted for portions of the Midwest and Great Plains. Today's targeted areas are parts of Missouri, Iowa, and Illinois. The Storm Prediction Center rates the risk at a 3 out of 5 for tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail. Those living in the yellow area should stay weather alert for strong to severe storms. Air travel may be impacted in Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Omaha. Yesterday's big weather maker brought hail to parts of the East Coast. This is from Mills River in western North Carolina. Hail accumulated on this house, and it looks almost like snow. Asheville meteorologist Jason Boyer says it was all part of a severe thunderstorm that moved through the area yesterday evening. The storm was small but mighty. On the flip side, many surrounding counties didn't see any severe weather at all. There's a similar story in the Washington, D.C. area. Around its Northern Virginia suburbs, many neighborhoods reported significant hailstorms, anywhere from penny size to perhaps golf balls. The good news, no reports of serious damage. And here's something you don't see every day. Meteorologist Matt Ritter took this video southeast of Washington, D.C. yesterday. Take a closer look and you can see how the hail shaft is just below the clouds. My colleague, meteorologist Veronica Johnson, explains what happened.
We had a cold front that was moving quickly through our area, and that was just enough to provide some instability for the area. Look at the storms moving on through, the instability giving way to what's referred to as updrafts, strong winds funneling into thunderstorms that allow these super cooled water droplets to build bigger and bigger into spheres, hailstones, where the atmosphere just could no longer hold it. We had reports of penny and quarter-size hail, even golf ball and ping pong size hail reported in the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area. Lots of it, in fact. Dulles, the climate report, showed a trace of snow today because of all the hail, the ice pellets, and temperatures in the 80s. I reached out to National Weather Service here, and they said the last time they've had a report like that was September 7th and 8th of 2023. They reported a trace of snow because of the hail and temperatures in the 90s. Just a little digging. This could potentially be the biggest hail event since June 2nd, 2019. I'm Chief Meteorologist Veronica Johnson reporting here in Washington, D.C.
And check this out. A time lapse was captured on a Virginia traffic camera shortly before the hail arrived. You can see the clouds appear to be spinning as it passes by. And then right behind it, clear blue skies. It should be noted no tornado warnings were issued for the area. Parts of the Oahu flooded earlier this morning, or remain flooded early this morning after heavy rains drenched Honolulu and the rest of the island. Although no mandatory evacuations were ordered, some residents did seek emergency shelter. Eddie Dowd reports.
It was the last thing residents on the Garden Isle wanted to see on Sunday. Heavy rains hitting the island for the second time in less than a week. The day before, some areas of the island remained saturated with large puddles of water left by heavy rainfall Thursday into Friday.
It's not going to take much. It's just going to take a persistent rain for the streams to go up. But luckily, that heavy rain has kind of moved on.
The Castissimo Ohana spent days cleaning up their home in Kaloa after it flooded early Friday.
Maybe right here on the car, so about waist high.
On Sunday, they were preparing for another potential flood, moving personal possessions to higher ground and staying with nearby family as a precaution. Now that system is moving through Oahu. The National Weather Service says with this system, flooding concerns are focused in Honolulu. Honolulu Emergency Management says it started preparing last week for this system.
We saw some potential for heavy rains over the weekend, so we actually had crews go out, check some of our problematic areas, some of the streams, and take action where they can, opening up the stream mouths in some of the areas to mitigate flooding.
Many living in a small East Texas town are living on the edge this morning. The Sabine River Authority has released water from a reservoir following days of drenching rain last week. As Maya Caleb explains, the released water could flood the small town of Deweyville in the coming days.
In 2016 and 2017, Deweyville residents experienced flooding that damaged homes and businesses.
We lost our house. We had 54 inches of water in the house.
The release from the Toledo Bend Reservoir has these residents concerned for a similar outcome in the coming days.
We have sloughs on each side of us, and when it gets deep enough, we can't get out from our house.
The floodgates at the dam are releasing water into the Sabine River.
The water level has come down from almost 28 or a little bit over 28 feet here at Deweyville, and it was down to 26.98.
Floodwater should reach Deweyville by Wednesday or Thursday. Damage assessment in Newton County will begin shortly after.
We haven't gone and started doing our assessment, which we should start this Thursday. It'll start up north at the higher elevation.
Residents hold their breath, hoping for the best.
We're going to probably go back to my daughter's and just see what's it like, and we just go from there. That's really all you can do.
Once the Sabine River recedes below 25 feet, schools can reopen and life can go back to normal. Reporting in Deweyville, Maya Caleb.
In Nebraska, there's a tight window to get crops planted for the season. Farmers are already starting to get soybeans in the ground. As Steve White reports, they are doing it earlier and earlier every year.
Everyone's inside, even the dogs, as wind gusts 45 miles an hour. But when it's time to roll, this farm doesn't wait to plant soybeans.
When the corn planter goes out, the soybean planter's right behind it. And so we start planting corn and soybeans exactly the same time.
It's something Greg Grieving learned from university research.
The earlier you plant your beans, the better off you are, because
once May arrives, every day delayed affects fall harvest.
And obviously what farmers are doing is harvesting sunshine. They put something out there to absorb that energy, and then the plant converts it into the grain or the forage that we're harvesting. And so kind of the idea is to have, as has been quoted many times, to have your soybean field green by the 4th of July.
Soybean demand remains strong, but he cautions there should be plenty around the U.S. and world to meet demand. Still, Greg Grieving says, big picture, there are new plants coming online in Nebraska that will need soybeans in the coming years.
It's pretty exciting times for soybeans here in Nebraska.
First things first, farmers need to get seed in the ground. And in Nebraska, the window of opportunity starts with a mix of hot and cold days, even storms. But Greg Grieving isn't worried just yet. Tax day is historically about the time of year many growers start to consider putting seed in the ground, but with storms coming, many instead will be looking at the rain gauges, thankful for some moisture.
Strong winds blew through El Paso, Texas on Monday. While the wind kicked up dust and debris, some thought it was a welcome change from the heat. Julia Spencer has more.
It's very windy. I love a nice strong wind.
I love walking when it's windy outside.
It's better than the heat.
The sky across the borderland is completely gray, with a look of haziness in the air and a hold on to your hat kind of day. Dust has kicked up into the air, which some people say they aren't enjoying it all that much.
I'd stay clear from just open areas because right now, we're getting dust blown in our face right now.
With wind blowing things like trash in downtown or kicking up and causing hazing conditions in East El Paso and Horizon City, this wind is causing concern for people's safety in the city.
There's going to be, all kind of debris flying around and clouds of dust. Just visibility is a huge concern.
Coming up on the National Weather Desk, we look at how the National Weather Service confirms if a tornado has touched down. And warmer weather means boaters are out over winter-chilled water. That could be dangerous. We'll tell you how to stay safe.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Most of the Northeast will warm nicely into the 60s and even some low 70s this afternoon. It's going to be a mostly sunny day and one of those rare sunny days in the Northeast this spring. We've had a lot of clouds and a lot of storms. Here we are 2:30 in the afternoon. Notice as we head into Wednesday, we're introducing some wet weather in New York. High pressure should stay in control through most of New England. I think some of the shower activity should get into southern New England Wednesday night into Thursday. Parts of eastern New England will stay dry.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We're talking about beautiful spring weather for your Tuesday. Not a cloud in the sky, really, but once we get into Wednesday, we'll see that change. Chance for some showers and possibly thunderstorms to move across the area, especially as we move in the afternoon and evening. Tuesday is also going to be a great one here when we're talking about temperatures mid to upper 70s, lower humidity, looking and feeling great, and we'll likely see those numbers still sitting in the 70s despite the rainfall coming on Wednesday.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. A warm day. Most of us will be above our averages for this time of year for your Tuesday. With the coolest spot will be Little Rock at 78. The rest of us in the 80s. Pensacola also 77, low 80s across most of the southeast. More cloud cover in the forecast for today. We do see some isolated storms associated with a low pressure system pushing across the Midwest heading into Wednesday overnight. Overall, most of us stay dry, but a few showers here and there.
Presented by the National Weather Desk.
Vivid lightning struck Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania Sunday night. There are no reports of any damage. A storm combined with rays of sunshine give us these dramatic shots from western Montana's Bitterroot Mountains. Warm weather helped surfers catch some waves with the early morning dawn patrol in Rhode Island. And we end with a gorgeous sunset over Washington State's Mount Adams.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Severe storms recently caused some damage in portions of Virginia. The National Weather Service investigated to determine whether wind damage was caused by a tornado. Rachel Tillapaw spoke with the NWS to find out.
Dozens are picking up the pieces in Pittsylvania County. After strong storms hit the area, the National Weather Service was in Callens on Saturday, surveying the damage.
Primary job is to kind of document what happened and determine whether or not it was a tornado or straight line winds, because winds can produce a lot of damage as well.
Officials just ruled that the storm produced an EF1 tornado with maximum winds of about 100 miles per hour. Doug Butts, the leading meteorologist that surveyed the area, explained how they determine it's a tornado.
Tornadoes, because the rotation in the with the tornado itself, you will see damage generally converge to a central point.
Butts says the central point was around the Strawberry Creek Lane area. You can see where trees are now uprooted and snapped. During the survey, officials also talk with homeowners like Tanya Douglas about what they witnessed.
We probably have close to 50 trees down and uprooted. Our shingles on our roof took a hit, our shutters. We have a wood stove and a pole barn out there that, were hit with trees.
Spring is tornado season, but it's also that time of year when many head out on the open water. While it seems innocent enough, some dangers go along with it, such as winter chilled water temperatures. Meteorologist Ryan Munn explains.
This time of the year, the ocean temperature is in the low 40s, and that can cause big issues if you fall in or go for a swim.
Those water temperatures lag behind the air temperatures, and that can cause some real trouble for folks that are going recreational fishing or boating They fall into those water temperatures that are in the low 40s and in the 30s to low 40s on our lakes. Falling into that cold of water often leads to drowning.
It's always important to wear the correct safety gear, but it's even more important to do so now.
When somebody has that shock of that cold water, you have an involuntary gasp, and that usually leads to people sucking in water, which starts the drowning process. That's why if you have a life jacket on, that reduces the chance of your head going underwater and when you gasp, sucking in the air.
To avoid any chance of drowning, it may be best to wait until the water temperature increases.
Generally, when the water temperature is 70 or more, you're out of the woods. Some parts never get to that level. Interior waters, lakes, certainly do warm up to those levels. So it's safest, over the interior waters before it gets to those temperatures along the coast.
If you do plan to go out on the water, you'll want to avoid windy days with large waves, wear a life jacket, and it's always a good idea to tell somebody where you are going.
Tulips are blooming in many parts of the country, but their beauty doesn't last very long. Theron John shows us how long you can expect the springtime beauties to last.
Our tulip bulbs here on the forecast deck are starting to run out of steam this year. You might be asking yourself, how long do tulip bulbs last? Well, typically one bulb will bloom for 2 to 5 years. But don't worry, that does not mean you're going to be out of blooms, because after the first full year's growth, tulip bulbs start to multiply and you get new bulbs forming, and that means years of blossoms.
And if you're just getting started on your spring garden or vegetable planters, head over to our YouTube channel. You will find a video about making sure your spring garden stays full and healthy all season long. Just search the National Weather Desk on YouTube and be sure to subscribe while you're there. Springtime is a sturgeon spawning season in northeast Wisconsin. Many show up to get an up-close look at the fish. The season got an early start this year, and it could wrap up much faster than usual. Let's take a look along the Wolf River with meteorologist Phil DeCastro.
Sturgeon Park in Shawano living up to its name Monday afternoon, and onlookers didn't need to look very hard to see the prehistoric fish gathering for spring spawning. Jody Ebeling comes back every year, and she says it's like a sign that spring has finally arrived.
Start seeing the spring flowers and then the birds, and sturgeon are one of those things.
Obviously, sturgeon don't have calendar reminders or anything like that to know when spawning starts. What they rely on is water temperature. The Wisconsin DNR says a water temperature of about 53 degrees is what they need to feel in order for spawning to start. And what do you know? The temperature coming in right around 53, 54 degrees. For siblings Beckett and Ruby, they got to skip school with Grandma to check out the big fish splashing around.
I saw maybe 200 fins.
Whoa.
And maybe 2 of them jump out of the water.
That's awesome.
And I saw one swimming underwater.
And what'd you do?
I saw one over there.
Oh my God, so you've seen a lot of sturgeon.
Yeah.
You guys having a lot of fun?
Yeah. Yeah.
This week on our podcast, Off the Radar, Emily Gracie teamed up with another weather podcast to discuss the past, present, and future of digital weather. Here's a preview of the episode.
So I'm curious if you guys have an opinion or can offer folks advice on what might not be a reputable source and any red flags they should look for when they are seeing information on Facebook or on TikTok.
If it looks like too scary, like the thumbnail or the headline, it's probably not from a reputable source. That's a scare tactic to draw an emotion from you to click. That's always a good one. It's always good to do your homework on who these people are. See if they have a meteorology degree.
Yeah, man, I could talk about this with a pint of beer or 2 or 3 pints of beer all night. I mean, know who your source is. And as Joe said, check who they are. I mean, a lot of people will tell you just what you want to hear to get the clicks. I would also suggest always going to a second or third source to corroborate something you hear.
I think another red flag too is these extremely long-term forecasts that are precise. So anytime you see, a hurricane forecast 10 days out saying this is where landfall is going to be, or anytime you see snowfall totals that are 10 days out or even a week out, that's certainly a red flag, because that has been a trend too of people find these websites where they can find long-term computer models they think this is it. I've got the answers. I can see the future. They post that irresponsibly without context. And so that's something to look out for. If you're seeing a forecast that's, 2 weeks out and seems too good to be true to get a forecast like that, it probably is.
If you want to go more in depth on the future of weather forecasting in the digital world, make sure you check out this week's episode on Off the Radar. You can listen to Off the Radar wherever you find your local podcast, plus it's free. And before we take a break, let's head over to the York Haven Dam. It's on the Susquehanna River.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Got some showers and thunderstorms across the plains. Make sure to stay weather aware for the potential of some severe weather today. That will move eastward for tomorrow into the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley, with the sun coming back out across some of the plains. By the time that we get to Thursday, got another round of some thunderstorms sliding their way in. Cooler to the north. Look at that. Only a high in the 40s in Bismarck on Thursday. Cooler weather to end the work week and start the weekend.
Good Tuesday morning to you, meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off with some cool 50s and 60s, Texas Panhandle and Oklahoma City. On the lookout later in the day into a Tuesday night for a couple strong to severe storms, especially into Arkansas, where there is a slight severe weather risk for wind and hail. We step into Wednesday's forecast and pretty calm across the region. We'll have some scattered clouds, warmth, a little bit of heat, and certainly some humidity as you press toward the Gulf. Highs in the 80s.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a happy Tuesday to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon ODonnell. We are talking about some scattered showers hanging out in the PNW, close to the Canadian border, and some of those are going to make their way back towards Salt Lake City and Jackson Hole today. But look at the warmth starting to push into parts of southern Nevada and Arizona, with 88 today around Phoenix and Tucson, 74 out of Albuquerque, and again, wet weather pushing into the plains, which may result in some tornado action later today. And that's the scene from here.
The National Weather Desk.
We showed you a lot of videos today of hail, but do you know there's a different type of cold weather precip that's not hail and it's not snow? It's called graupel. Meteorologist Violet Skybo explains what it is and how it forms.
Graupel usually forms in winter, whereas hail forms under thunderstorms in the summer. So let's explain how graupel forms and also what it looks like. First, we have our cloud that's precipitating snowflakes. As these snowflakes fall, it reaches a layer of air that's below freezing, below 32 degrees. And this contains supercooled water droplets. Yes, they're still water droplets, but as soon as they touch anything, they tend to freeze. So in this case, it's our snowflake. As that snowflake falls through this layer of colder air, the supercooled water droplets will attach itself onto that snowflake. And they freeze, or a process known as rime, onto the snowflakes. And as more and more begin to attach itself to this snowflake, it eventually starts to conglomerate into what looks like small hail. But this is actually graupel.
If you're looking for more great weather content, check us out on social media. We're back after this. Thank you so much for looking in this morning. I'm glad you were able to join me. I'm meteorologist Steve Rudin from WJLA in Washington, D.C. I'll see you back here tomorrow.